What if everything we think we know about the ocean is wrong? Beneath the waves lies a world darker than space. A place where sunlight dies, pressure crushes steel, and shapes move in silence. For centuries, sailors whispered about monsters. Creatures so massive they could swallow ships. Serpents that could end the world. Shadows that rise when the sea goes still. Scientists have mapped the surface of Mars more clearly than the ocean floor. So tonight, we dive into the depths. 12 sea legends. Some myth, some real, and some far more terrifying than fiction. Welcome to the world of sea monsters. Part 1. The Kraken. Sea creatures have long fascinated humanity. After all, no one truly knows what hides in the ocean's depths. The deeper you go, the darker it becomes. Light fades, sound changes, and imagination takes control. The first creature in our journey is the Kraken, the sea monster that once made sailors write their wills before setting sail. This wasn't described as just a giant squid. Legends say it was as large as an island, its back mistaken for land. Ships would anchor to it, unaware they were resting on a living creature. Then the water would begin to foam. The sea would churn violently. Massive tentacles would rise from the depths, thick as tree trunks, wrapping around masts and hulls. Eyes the size of windows stared through the mist. The Kraken comes from ancient Norse legend. Fishermen believed that if the ocean suddenly grew restless without warning, the beast was rising. And if you saw it clearly, it was already too late. So feared was this monster that early sailors marked dangerous waters on maps with warnings, "Here be monsters." But here is where myth meets reality. For centuries, stories of enormous tentacled beasts were dismissed as exaggeration. Then, in the early 2000s, scientists finally captured footage of a living giant squid deep underwater. Before that, only torn flesh, sucker scars on whales, and fragments washed ashore hinted at its existence. Today, the Kraken lives on in films, games, and modern culture. Because even if the legend isn't fully real, the fear behind it is. The ocean covers most of our planet. We've explored only a fraction of it. And somewhere in that darkness, something could still be waiting. Part 2. Jormungandr. Next on our list is Jormungandr, the world serpent. Unlike the Kraken, Jormungandr is not just a monster of the sea. He is a cosmic force, a being so massive that legends claim he wraps around the entire Earth, biting his own tail, holding the world in a silent grip beneath the waves. In Norse mythology, Jormungandr is the son of Loki, the trickster god. He is the brother of Hel, ruler of the underworld, and Fenrir, the monstrous wolf destined to bring chaos. The gods feared the serpent's power, so they cast him into the ocean that surrounds Midgard, the world of humans. But that exile only made him grow, and grow, until his body stretched across the seas, circling the planet itself. Jormungandr does not attack randomly. He waits, because when he finally rises from the ocean, Ragnarok begins, the end of the world. On that final day, he will face Thor, the god of thunder. The battle will shake the sky and sea alike. Thor will kill the serpent with his mighty hammer. But after walking only 9 steps, he too will fall, poisoned by Jormungandr's deadly venom. This myth echoes ancient fears of sea serpents told across Scandinavia and Iceland. Even in the 1800s, sailors reported sightings of enormous snake-like creatures in northern waters, long, dark shapes moving just beneath the surface. Today, Jormungandr appears in modern games and stories as a symbol of destruction and destiny. Does he truly exist? No, but the idea that something unseen could already be wrapped around our world, watching, waiting, that fear feels very real. Part 3. Megalodon. You've definitely heard of the next creature, the Megalodon. Not a myth, not a legend whispered in taverns, but a real predator that once ruled the oceans with unmatched dominance. Imagine a shark up to 60 feet long, longer than a school bus. Its body thick and powerful, moving silently through deep water. Its jaws could open nearly 10 feet wide. Strong enough to crush bone, like glass. Strong enough to crush a car. And the most terrifying part? If it were near you, you wouldn't hear a thing. Megalodon hunted whales, dolphins, seals, and even other large sharks. Fossil evidence shows bite marks on ancient whale bones, proof of violent encounters. Nothing in the ocean rivaled it. It was the apex of apex predators. Fossilized teeth have been found all over the world, from Europe to Australia, from Japan to the coasts of the United States and Peru. Some teeth are so perfectly preserved they look almost recent. A single tooth could reach 7 inches long. That's why its name, Megalodon, literally means giant tooth. Scientists believe it went extinct around 3.6 million years ago, likely due to climate change and shifting food sources. But here's where imagination begins. Because the deep ocean is vast, largely unexplored, dark beyond measure. Some still ask, what if a small population survived? What if something ancient still swims in trenches deeper than we can reach? Movies and documentaries keep the question alive. Giant shadows beneath boats. Massive shapes in sonar readings. So, does the Megalodon exist today? Science says no. But the fact that it once did, that a predator this enormous truly ruled our oceans, might be more terrifying than any myth ever told. Part 4, Umibozu. Next up is a creature born not from crashing waves, but from silence. Umibozu, in Japanese folklore, his name means sea monk. But there is nothing peaceful about him. Sailors tell of violent storms that suddenly stop without warning. The thunder fades, the waves flatten, the wind dies, and an unnatural silence spreads across the ocean. No birds, no ripples, just fog swallowing the horizon. That's when Umibozu rises. He is described as enormous, dark, and faceless. Some say he has a smooth, round head like a monk's shaved scalp. Others claim he is nothing more than a towering black shadow emerging from the water. No clear eyes, no mouth, just a massive presence blocking out the sky. He does not roar. He does not splash. He simply appears, and ships sink. Legend says if sailors try to speak to him, he will ask for a bucket. If they hand him a normal bucket, he uses it to flood the vessel, pouring endless seawater onto the deck until the ship disappears beneath the surface. There's only one trick to survive. Give him a bottomless bucket. The sea monk, confused by the impossibility of filling it, becomes distracted long enough for the crew to escape. Stories of Umibozu have been told for centuries along Japanese coasts. Today he appears in anime, manga, horror films, and video games, always as a symbol of quiet, unstoppable doom. Science explains such sightings as rogue waves, shadows, or exhaustion-driven hallucinations. But when the ocean suddenly goes still, and the air feels too heavy to breathe, some sailors still whisper his name. Umibozu. Part 5, The Sea Eater. Few people speak openly about it. But among coastal fishermen in the cold waters of Scandinavia and northern Canada, there is a name that passes quietly from generation to generation. The Sea Eater. It does not announce itself with crashing waves or monstrous roars. It does not circle its prey. It simply appears. Witnesses describe a massive, dark shape rising slowly from beneath a boat. No splash, no warning, just a shadow growing larger under the hull. Its skin is said to be smooth, almost rubber-like, resembling that of a giant seal. There are no visible eyes, no fins cutting through the surface, only a wide, gaping mouth stretching across nearly half its head. Some claim it is the size of a bus. Others insist it is far larger, something too big to fully comprehend in open water. The most unsettling detail? The sea is always calm when it happens. Boats vanish without a struggle. No debris, no distress call, no overturned wreckage floating nearby. Just an empty stretch of quiet ocean, as if nothing had ever disturbed it. Legends say the sea eater does not attack in anger. It does not chase. It waits beneath the surface until a vessel passes above. Then, in one silent motion, it rises. And the boat is gone. Modern explanations suggest rogue waves, underwater sinkholes, or structural failure at sea. Some believe panic and imagination shape these tales. But the ocean contains trenches so deep that sunlight never touches them. Entire ecosystems survive in darkness we can barely explore. If something lived there, something massive and patient, it would not need speed or noise. It would only need to wait. Part 6, Agapago. Shrouded in mist and freshwater silence, the next creature is not from the ocean, but from a lake. Agapago. This legendary being is said to dwell in Lake Okanagan in Canada. Unlike many sea monsters tied to distant myths, Agapago's story feels closer, more local, rooted in the traditions of indigenous peoples of the region. Long before modern sightings, the Syilx Okanagan, people spoke of a powerful water spirit called Narik. This spirit was believed to live deep within the lake and demanded respect. Travelers crossing the water would traditionally offer a gift to ensure safe passage. Without it, misfortune could follow. Over time, this spiritual presence evolved in popular storytelling into something more physical, a lake monster. Agapago is described as a long, serpent-like creature with smooth, dark skin. Witnesses say it has a small, horse-like head and a body that curves through the water in humps, sometimes stretching up to 49 feet long. Sightings often describe multiple humps moving just beneath the surface, creating an eerie ripple pattern across otherwise calm water. In 1926, a group of people claimed to have seen a large creature swimming in the lake. Since then, dozens of reports have followed. Blurry photographs, shaky videos, stories passed down through generations. Agapogo is often called the Canadian Loch Ness Monster. There's even a statue of the creature in the city of Kelowna, a friendly cartoon version that attracts tourists and keeps the legend alive. Scientists argue that most sightings can be explained by floating logs, waves reflecting light, or large fish moving in formation. But Lake Okanagan is deep and cold, and sometimes when mist rolls across the surface at dawn, the water moves in ways that are difficult to explain. Does Agapogo exist? There is no solid proof, but the legend refuses to disappear. Part 7. The Bloop. In 1997, something strange echoed through the deep Pacific Ocean. It wasn't a shape. It wasn't a shadow. It was a sound. A massive ultra-low-frequency sound picked up by underwater hydrophones operated by scientists. The signal was so powerful that it was detected by sensors more than 3,000 miles apart. That alone made it extraordinary. They called it the Bloop. At first, researchers couldn't explain it. The sound didn't match known marine animals. It didn't resemble submarine activity or underwater volcanic eruptions. It rose quickly in frequency, almost like a living call, before fading into the abyss. Speculation exploded. Some suggested it could be a creature larger than a blue whale, something massive enough to produce a sound of that magnitude. Others linked its coordinates to eerie internet theories about ancient beings sleeping beneath the sea. The mystery deepened because the ocean region where it was recorded lies near some of the most remote waters on Earth, far from human traffic, far from coastlines. For years, the Bloop became a symbol of the unknown. Documentaries, forums, and conspiracy channels asked the same question. What made that sound? Eventually, official science offered an explanation. Researchers concluded it was most likely an ice quake, the sound of a large glacier cracking and breaking apart underwater. The acoustic signature closely matched other recorded ice events. Case closed? Maybe. But here's the unsettling truth. The ocean is still largely unexplored. Entire species remain undiscovered. Sounds travel differently in the deep, bending through layers of pressure and temperature. The Bloop may have been ice, or it may have been something else entirely. And sometimes a sound in the dark is far more terrifying than seeing what made it. Part 8. The Loch Ness Monster. Have you ever heard of Nessie? The mysterious creature said to live in Loch Ness, a vast, deep freshwater lake in the Scottish Highlands. Dark, cold, and stretching over 20 miles long, Loch Ness holds more freshwater than all the lakes in England and Wales combined. Its depth reaches over 750 feet in some places. Perfect for hiding something unseen. Descriptions of the Loch Ness Monster are surprisingly consistent. Witnesses claim it can reach up to 10 meters in length, with a dark, leathery body and a long, flexible neck rising above the water. Some say its head resembles a snake or even a small dinosaur. Others describe fins or flippers moving just beneath the surface. The earliest recorded encounter dates back to the year 565. According to legend, St. Columba, an Irish monk, confronted a giant creature in the River Ness and commanded it to retreat. The story survived through centuries of retelling. But modern fascination truly began in 1933, when a photograph known as the surgeon's photo appeared in newspapers. The image showed a long neck emerging from the water. It became one of the most famous photographs in history. Decades later, it was revealed to be a hoax, a staged model floating in the lake. Yet the legend didn't die. Since then, there have been sonar scans, underwater explorations, DNA sampling of the lake's waters, and countless investigations. None have produced definitive proof of a giant reptilian creature. Scientists suggest sightings are likely large eels, floating logs, waves, or optical illusions caused by light and water distortion. But Loch Ness remains mysterious. Its dark waters swallow light quickly, its surface often covered in mist. Does Nessie exist? There is no solid evidence. But year after year, visitors gather at the lake's edge, cameras ready, watching the water. Because sometimes belief is stronger than proof. Part 9. Mermaids and Sirens. Number 9 in our journey takes us into one of the oldest and most widespread sea legends in human history. Mermaids, or perhaps more accurately, sirens. Today, most people imagine a beautiful woman with flowing hair and a shimmering fish tail, sitting peacefully on a rock, singing about love and longing. But the original legends were far darker and far more dangerous. In ancient Greek mythology, sirens were not half fish at all. They were described as half-woman, half-bird creatures, with wings, claws, and hauntingly beautiful voices. Their song was irresistible. Sailors who heard it would lose all sense of reason, steering their ships toward rocky shores where they would crash and drown. In Norse and Celtic traditions, sea maidens also carried a sinister reputation. They lured men into the depths, pulling them beneath cold waters, never to return. Some accounts describe sharp teeth hidden behind perfect smiles, pale skin glowing in moonlight, eyes that reflected like something not entirely human. Over centuries, different cultures blended these myths together. The bird-like siren merged with the sea maiden, slowly transforming into the half-woman, half-fish mermaid we recognize today. Modern storytelling softened their image. Fairy tales turned them romantic. Films reimagined them as misunderstood dreamers. But older sailor logs tell a different story. Accounts of strange figures spotted on distant rocks, of hypnotic singing heard through heavy fog, of ships disappearing near treacherous coastlines. Scientists suggest these sightings may have been manatees, seals, or the product of exhaustion and dehydration during long voyages at sea. Yet the legend persists across continents and centuries. Do mermaids exist? Science says no, but the ocean is vast. And sometimes when waves crash against empty cliffs and the wind carries something that almost sounds like a voice, it's easy to understand why sailors once believed. Part 10, Titanoboa. The next creature doesn't come from myth. It comes from prehistory. Titanoboa. Imagine a snake the length of 2 city buses placed end to end. A body stretching up to 50 feet long, weighing over a ton. Muscles thick as tree trunks. Scales sliding silently through dark, humid swamps. Titanoboa lived around 60 million years ago, shortly after the extinction of the dinosaurs. Its home was what is now modern-day Colombia, a tropical world of dense forests and steaming wetlands. And in that ecosystem, Titanoboa was not just another predator. It ruled. Unlike venomous snakes that rely on poison, Titanoboa was a constrictor. It didn't need fangs dripping with venom. It wrapped its massive body around prey and squeezed. The pressure it could generate was strong enough to crush bone and collapse lungs in seconds. Scientists believe it fed on large fish, turtles, and even primitive crocodile-like reptiles. In its environment, there was little that could challenge it. What makes Titanoboa even more fascinating is how recently it was discovered. In 2009, miners working in a coal mine in Colombia uncovered enormous fossilized vertebrae. Some were as large as a human head. From these bones, paleontologists reconstructed the largest snake ever known to exist. Today, a life-size model of Titanoboa has been displayed in museums, towering over visitors and reminding us that Earth's past was far more extreme than we imagine. Of course, Titanoboa is extinct. But here's the unsettling thought. It once existed. A snake that size truly slithered across this planet. And if nature created it once, it proves that the line between myth and reality is sometimes much thinner than we think. Part 11, El Gran Maya. Not all monsters are ancient. Some are born in the digital age. El Gran Maya is one of the newest sea legends, a colossal creature that began appearing in online forums, digital art, and conspiracy discussions only a few years ago. Unlike myths passed down through centuries, this one grew through screenshots, blurry clips, and whispered internet threads. According to descriptions, El Gran Maya is unimaginably massive, stretching up to 2,200 feet long. That's longer than 6 football fields combined. Its body is said to be dark and serpentine, with a head lined with razor-sharp teeth. Along the sides of its skull are 6 small, glowing white eyes, spaced evenly like something not designed by nature. The creature is rumored to live deep in the Arctic Ocean, beneath thick ice and crushing pressure, far from shipping routes and human exploration. The story gained traction after reports of strange underwater sounds recorded in Arctic waters. Some claimed the sounds were just shifting ice. Others insisted they were vocalizations, calls from something enormous moving below. One widely shared tale speaks of a deep-sea expedition that briefly captured a massive shadow gliding past a remote camera. The footage was unclear. No confirmed source. No official record. But that's how modern legends grow. Through uncertainty. Through fear of what technology might accidentally reveal. Scientists dismiss the story as fiction, a product of creative storytelling and internet culture. There is no fossil record. No physical evidence. No credible documentation. And yet the idea lingers. Because the Arctic remains one of the least explored regions on Earth. Beneath miles of ice, entire ecosystems survive in darkness. Does El Gran Maya exist? Almost certainly not. But in an age where information spreads faster than truth, sometimes belief alone is enough to create a monster. Part 12, Ningen. The final creature in our journey does not roar. It does not attack ships. It does not leave fossils behind. It simply appears. Ningen, a modern legend born from the frozen waters of Antarctica. The first reports surfaced in Japan during the early 2000s. Crew members on fishing and research vessels claimed they saw something enormous moving beneath the ice. Not a whale. Not a submarine. Something pale. Humanoid. Wrong. The name, Ningen, literally means human. But the descriptions are anything but human. Witnesses describe a massive white body, up to 98 feet long. Smooth skin, almost glowing against the dark water. Long, limb-like extensions stretching from its sides. No visible face. No clear eyes. No mouth. Just a blank, featureless surface where expressions should be. Some blurry images circulated online, allegedly showing a large white shape beneath Antarctic ice. None were ever verified. No clear footage. No captured specimen. No DNA. And that's what makes the story so compelling. Antarctica remains one of the least explored places on Earth. Beneath its ice shelves lie deep, hidden waters cut off from sunlight for thousands of years. Entire species have been discovered there, strange fish, translucent organisms, creatures that look almost alien. So when stories of a massive, faceless being began spreading in paranormal magazines and internet forums, imagination filled in the gaps. Scientists say Ningen is nothing more than ice formations, misidentified whales, or visual distortions caused by light beneath thick ice. And they're probably right. But there's something deeply unsettling about the idea of a human-shaped presence drifting silently under frozen water. No sound, no emotion, just watching. Does Ningen exist? Most likely not. But as long as Antarctica holds secrets beneath its ice, the legend will continue to swim in the dark.